Ciao, my friends. In today's video, we're going to be making a delicious Italian dessert, a version of tiramisu with pistachios. So this is a little variation on a traditional tiramisu. I'm going to use my family's tiramisu recipe and sort of adjust it to a pistachio flavor. Now, I bought a pistachio flavored panettone, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? I didn't use it when I thought I was going to use it, so I decided to use it instead of ladyfingers or savoiardi. I'm going to use pistachio flavored panettone as the sponge for this pistachio tiramisu. It's going to be delicious. All right, so yesterday I cut this up already because I wanted it to air dry and get a little stale and drier because it will absorb that espresso much better if it's dry. So this has been sitting out since yesterday afternoon, just air drying with a paper towel on top. That's how I sliced it up about, I would say 3/4 of an inch thick. And then we're going to be assembling it with traditional espresso and my family's whipped mixture, which I'm going to show you. So the way I like to start off any tiramisu is by making a zabaglione a bagnomaria. A bagnomaria means that you're slowly cooking the egg over hot boiling water. Now, in a traditional tiramisu, it's raw eggs, but my family does not like to do the raw eggs. We like to cook the zabaglione first, and we do not use the egg whites. So that's just a little different take on a tiramisu. So that's what I'm going to do. So I have 2 egg yolks in my double boiler, and I'm going to be adding 2/3 of a cup of sugar. To that, I'm going to add Grand Marnier. Now, usually in a regular tiramisu, I would add Marsala wine. But because this is pistachio or pistacchio, I'm going to be adding an orange liqueur like Grand Marnier because orange and pistachio love each other. And so that's what we're going to do to flavor the zabaglione. So I'm going to be adding about 2 tablespoons of Grand Marnier. Depends on how strong you want it. You can add up to 3, but no more than that for this amount of tiramisu, which is a half dose of my full recipe. Now I'm just going to whisk that together into sort of a paste, creamy consistency. And then once the water comes up to a boil, I'm going to just continue to whisk it until it turns sort of a pale, light yellow color. All right, now it's pale yellow in color. I'm going to put it over some cold water for it to cool off so we could do the other steps in the recipe. Okay, so I showed you my zabaglione cooked over bagnomaria. So now I'm going to be making sort of a whipped cream mixture. Instead of the egg whites, my family does whipped cream and mascarpone whipped together. But because this is pistachio flavored tiramisu, we're also going to be incorporating pistachio spread, sort of that pistachio butter that you see at the supermarket nowadays. So I have my heavy whipping cream here. That's 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. And then I'm going to be using 4 ounces. This is an 8-ounce package of mascarpone. I'm going to be using half of that, 4 ounces. But I'm going to beat the heavy cream just a little bit so it starts to thicken up before I add this in. All right, so now that I have a stiff whipped cream, I'm going to be adding in my zabaglione that has cooled off and folding it in, as well as pistachio spread. So I just have a generic pistachio spread. Any brand is fine. I'm going to be using about a half cup of that spread, but you can see, if you like it a little bit more with pistachio flavor, you could use more. That measurement isn't as important as the zabaglione and the whipped cream. All right, so I'm just going to fold everything in together. Just don't be too rough. You don't want to deflate the air in the whipped cream. You want this to be a nice, light, and fluffy tiramisu. To our whipped cream mixture, we really want to drive home that orange and pistachio flavor because they really taste good together. So I'm going to add the zest of 1 orange to my whipped cream mixture and might sprinkle it on top just so you know there's orange in there and you get that pop of zest when you take your first bite. All right, I have that all mixed, and now, my mom and I think of all these little things to make life easier. So we bought this on Amazon. It's sort of like a bottle cap, looks like kind of like a shower head. I don't even know what this is called. I'm sure it has a name, but I will link it in the caption. And I have just a regular plastic bottle, and I'm going to put this on top. But before I do that, I'm going to add my espresso in here with a little shot of Grand Marnier and mix it up. And then I'm going to use this little sprinkle cap to wet my panettone as I'm putting this together. So this makes life easier. Do you need it? No, but it's easier. All right, so I'm just going to use a funnel so I don't make a mess. I'm probably going to make a mess anyway, but it helps with making less of a mess. So I made the espresso yesterday and I put it in the fridge so it was ready to go. There's a lot of prep work that goes on with making a tiramisu. Everything has to cool off. Everything has to be either room temperature or cold before you can put anything together. So a lot of this stuff happens either, a few hours before you actually put it together or the day before you can make the espresso. So this I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of Grand Marnier just to amplify that orange flavor. Now, you can make this dessert with no alcohol. You don't need the Grand Marnier if you don't want the alcohol. So you could leave it out and it's just as good. I'm going to put the cap on and just give it a little to mix it up. Put my little sprinkle cap on, make sure it doesn't come off. Let's assemble. So since this is a half recipe, I have a 9-inch loaf pan. I'm going to place my panettone down. You can fit them in. Just make sure you cover all the space. Sprinkle it with espresso, but not too much. You don't want it to be soupy. I sort of press it down to make sure the espresso is really in there. Take half the whipped cream mixture, spread it out, sprinkle it with chopped pistachios, and then repeat the process again with the panettone. It's really important to make sure that all the sponge is covered in espresso, but don't add too much. The bottle top really helps you to control the amount of espresso coming out, so I love that. Top with the other half of the whipped cream mixture. And if you want it to be fancy, you could also pipe this on and make beautiful little piped rosettes. I'm just going to keep it simple today. Top with chopped pistachios and a little bit of orange zest so you get that zing when you take your first bite. And that's how you put it together. All right, my friends, we put it together. Now comes the hardest part. We have to wait till tomorrow because you have to let this sit. All the flavors have to come together. The sponge has to absorb the espresso and the cream you put on top of it and all that goodness. So it'll taste delicious now, but it'll be more delicious tomorrow. So we're going to try it tomorrow. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover it in plastic wrap. And place it into the fridge till tomorrow, and then we're going to give it a little try. Okay, my friends, it's the next day, obviously. I'm in a totally different outfit. So that was a shot of me cutting it open to show you how it's set up. It's set up really beautifully. You have to be careful with tiramisu because sometimes if you add a little bit too much espresso, it could become a soupy mess. So you don't want that. So this set up really nice. It absorbed all of that espresso, all of the whipped cream zabaglione mixture, and it tastes so good. So if you are a tiramisu lover, if you are a pistachio lover, this is your dessert. So try it and let me know what you think. I'll see you on the next video, my friends. Ciao.